Hey friends, it's Fantasy Week, and one of the things we are going to be exploring is dragons. And I know that a lot of my students are big dragon fans and they read dragon books. And so um, I thought it would be fun to do learn to draw a dragon using some lines and shapes. And this is really kind of a cool way to draw a dragon because you can easily alter the shapes and the lines to change the look of the dragon. So I'm going to show you the basic technique, and then I would encourage you to experiment around to create different types of dragons. So I've created this little worksheet that you can use to follow along with. Again, if you want to watch the video and then take the worksheet and some paper outside and draw a dragon outside, feel free to do that. Or if you just want to follow along directly with me while watching the video, that is a possibility too. So, without further ado, let's get started. So the first shape that we are going to start with is a rectangle. And the rectangle is going to be the dragon's head. So I would say if you want your dragon to kind of take up your whole piece of paper, the head could be possibly a little bit bigger than the rectangle on this piece of paper, because if we look at the finished dragon here, it's really small. So I'm going to start with my rectangle a little bit bigger. So, and I'm going to start kind of close to the edge of my paper, and I'm going to draw maybe a bigger rectangle that's maybe about like this big. And everybody knows how to draw a rectangle, all of you. So, and I just rounded the corners, and you might say, well, that's hard to do. If that's hard for you to do, just draw a regular rectangle. Don't worry about rounding the corners. Okay, so there's my rectangle. Now again, depending, you could make your rectangle thinner, and that's going to alter the shape of the dragon's head. You can also make it fatter. If you wanted to, and you drew it and you don't like it and you think you want to make it a little bit thinner, then just draw your new line and then erase your old line. That's kind of how I like to do it. And then that, to do a rounded corner, after you have a sharp corner, you can just add a little curve in the corner like that. Okay, so that's going to be turned into the dragon's head eventually. Then we have this line that's kind of going to curve. It's going to curve sort of down, and then it's going to kind of come up. And that is going to be part of the dragon's body, and the end part is going to be the dragon's tail. So again, depending on if you curl this down and around, then the tail would be longer and could curve around longer. But we're just going to do it the way that I have it on the sheet for right now. So we're going to kind of curve. This line goes down just a little bit. It doesn't go down really far, but it goes down just a little bit like this. And then it kind of curves up and goes over like that. Okay? So it's just kind of like down and then back up and then down a little bit. Again, it does not have to, your line does not have to look exactly like this, because your dragon it still will make a dragon. It will just look a little bit different. And I like the fact that this strategy will allow you to kind of change the way your dragon looks depending on the shapes that you draw. So here's my rectangle, here's my line. Now when I look at step 2, all we're going to do is we're just going to draw this little sort of gumdrop shape right here. And it starts probably right around here, because this is actually going to become part of the dragon's neck, all right? So if your dragon has a long neck, you would start this a little bit further down. If your dragon has a shorter neck, you would start it a little bit further up. So I'm just going to decide that I'm going to put this. So I'm going to start with, it's really just a rainbow. I'm going up and around and back down. And if you want to smooth it out a little bit. And then this bottom part sort of curves. It's not straight across. So if you look at this, it kind of curves down and then goes up just slightly. So I'm just going to go down and then back up just a little bit, just like that. So you get kind of this shape. This is wider here and then a little bit thinner back here, okay? And then we're going to add two more things. We're going to add, these are going to end up being legs, but we're just adding those lines there. So I'm coming in a little bit, and I have one here, and it's kind of like a little bit curved like that. And then I have another one a little bit further away, like that. And then this one is here, like that. And then this one is here, like that. And they're kind of curved as well. Then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to add two lines, and these will eventually turn into part of the wing. So this one starts a little bit kind of right in here. And again, you can choose where, and then you can make this as long. I can't go too long or I'll go off the paper, but I can make it longer or shorter depending on how big I want the wings to be. So I'm going to leave that one there. And then this is the back wing. So I'm just going to, this is going to kind of come up and then go like that there. Okay. Then we have finished step 2. So now we are going to go to step 3. So for step 3, we're going to start turning this rectangle into an actual head. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start up in this corner, and you'll see that there's a line that kind of curves like this. We're forming the dragon's mouth, and then we're kind of coming back maybe, and then leaving some space, and then curving down like that. And that's why we're rounding the corners, because now, and then I'm going to get rid of that part right here. So it's just kind of like that and like that. And then we're going to add half of a circle and half of a circle, because those are actually going to become eventually his nostrils, which dragons are so famous for. And then we're also going to add a nice big circle right here, which is going to eventually turn into the eye. And then we're also going to then, after we draw the details of the head, we are going to start to kind of draw the rest of the body. So what we can do is, I'm going to starting from the eye, I'm going to kind of curve down. So now I'm kind of getting rid of that square end there. So I'm curving down. And then I'm going to curve back up. This is kind of where to meet this, like that, okay? And again, you could change, if you didn't want it to slope down that much, you could kind of come out and then go down. So it's totally up to you how you want to do that. And then we're just going to follow along. We follow along. And then now when we come down to here, it's almost like when we do bubble letters. So we're going to come down, but we're not going to go as far down as that. And then we're just bubbling around this tail here. And then as we come back, we're going to meet up with this part right here. And then this this stays the same. And then as we come here, then this is going to curve back up to here. Or if you'd like, you can start here and curve down like that. And again, if you wanted to round it a little bit, you could kind of erase, because we're not going to need this anymore. It's just kind of like a placeholder. All right, and then we don't need this line anymore. So now, and we don't need this line anymore. So now, this is starting to look more like a dragon. So this is this. So I'm checking off, I added these, I added the eye, I made the mouth, I started doing the neck and the body, and I have the wings. So now I'm gonna go on to step 4. So step 4, I'm going to work on the legs and I'm gonna draw the wings. So for the wing, I notice, oh, it's going to kind of come, so there's a line here. And then this, I'm gonna start, you can either start here, and you guys know how to make the wave lines, right? So you're just going like this and like this. And you can decide if you want to have lots of points on the end of your dragon's wing, that's okay. So you could start here and kind of go ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. And that's different than what's here. That's totally okay. And you could even round this a little bit more if you wanted to. There's a million different ways you could do it. Or if you want to do it more like how it's pictured, you would just curve down more like that. And then you can curve around like that. And then you're getting smaller down in here. So we have and again, you can kind of fuss around with how, all right? And then we'll erase this inside line here. And then this line is just gonna curve just like that. And then this wing would be behind, so we wouldn't really see it, okay? And then, so we did the wings, and we're gonna erase this line in between here where the eye is. And now we're gonna do the legs. Now for the legs, same thing, we're going to bubble around the shapes. So I'm going to bubble around here. And again, depending, you can make the legs longer if you want to. You don't have to make them as short as they are there. If you want to make them longer, you can also make them a little bit different shaped. And then I'm going to start next to this one. Same thing, and come around. Now I don't need these lines anymore. And this line is going to come up because this is the front leg, and then this is the back leg. And so then what I'm going to do is over here, same thing, I'm going to go around and then kind of stop, because then this leg is coming around like that. And then I'll just erase that and that. Okay? So, how you doing? You're doing all right? I'm gonna just stop the video for a second and then allow you a second if you need to catch up to this point, and then we'll finish with the last remaining details. All right, guys, we're gonna finish up our dragon. So now we are going to start to add some more details to the face and to the wings. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to erase the 2 lines that were underneath, because these are actually going to become the nostril. So I'm putting 1 nostril hole here and 1 nostril hole there, because dragons are very famous for those because they breathe fire and smoke. And again, you can play around with how you want to change the shape. But maybe you want to add some more curves to the face of the dragon. Whoops. So again, you can, and when you draw nice and lightly, it makes it very easy to kind of go over erase the pencil lines you don't want. And then dragons have those eyes where kind of like that, and then they have that shape like that. And there's another eye I'm just going to put that's on the other side looking the other way. So we're just going to add that right there. And then there is the teeth. Now again, you can add as many teeth as you want. Before we do the teeth though, we're going to also make his mouth look a little more 3D. So we're going to curve up like this, and then we're going to curve up kind of right next to it. So that's kind of showing the inside of his mouth, and you could even draw a tongue if you wanted to, or fire. And then what we can do is we can add the teeth. So again, you can make them curved, you can just make them triangular, you can add more teeth. You can have teeth that go all the way to the back of his mouth. It's totally up to you how ferocious you would like your dragon to look. Or you can... So there's teeth. And we're also going to add, so there's the face for right now. And then we're also going to add some details to the wings. So we're going to start here, and this is going to kind of come up. So we're going to kind of go a line down like that. And then we're going to take another line and curve it down into there. And then same thing, we're going to go down and then down. Okay? And if you wanted to get fancier, you could draw another line next to the other line. To add some more details in like that. And now we have step 5 done because we put the wing details and we've added the eye details and the nostril and all the teeth. So now we are going to go to the final step 6, and this is where we add even more details depending on how you want to decorate your dragon. So dragons a lot of times have horns, so you can put horns. So I'm going to start the one horn behind this, in between the two eyes here, and then I'm going to put the other horn there. And again, you can even add more details to the horns. Sometimes dragons have ears, so you could even add an ear there if you wanted to. And then of course dragons are famous for the spikes that go down their back and all the way around to their tail. Now, you could make the spikes not pointy, but you could make them wavy like this. You could do that. Or if your dragon was more on the ferocious side, you would probably make them pointier. So it's totally up to you. If this is a friendly dragon, you would probably make everything more rounded, because rounded edges kind of say something a little bit more gentle than pointed edges. So I'm just going to add some spikes along the back there, and then I'm going to and the cool thing about this is that these are all lines that you guys have drawn in the past, and now I'm getting to the end here. Now, what do I want to put on the end of my dragon's tail? A lot of times dragons have it like that pointed tail at the end. The other thing you could do is you could also erase this end here. Maybe you don't want the tail to end, so maybe it's going to curve around some more. And then come down here. So that's an option, and then you can continue your... And then maybe for the arrow, I'm going to come out, and then down, and down like that. So that's an option. Then we've done the tail. Oh, so now the front of the dragon a lot of times has this different part for his tummy. So I'm going to start kind of here under where the jaw was. And I'm just going to follow that line around by the legs. And then I'm going to come around there like that and like that. Now, if I wanted the tummy to be bigger, then I'll just show you what that would be like. I'm just going to erase this line. If you wanted it to be bigger or wider, you would just start a little bit higher up and you could go, you could go more like this. Okay? And then we can add those sort of curved diagonal lines like that. And then last but not least, we have the claws. So you can decide what type of claws you want to put on the end of your dragon's feet. So I'm just putting some curved lines like that. And voila! You could even, if you wanted to, you can add more teeth. And there, my dragon is finished. You could also add, if you wanted to, let's say he was breathing fire. So you could add that. Maybe there's smoke. And where is he? You can add a background. You can add, maybe he's flying above and the hills are down here. Maybe you want to draw some other stuff. So there is the dragon. Now, ways that you can change the dragon. I'll show you, I'll make a couple of suggestions. I'm going to stop the video, but if you want to keep watching, I can talk to you about how you can kind of change the look of the dragon's body depending on how you change some of the lines or the shapes. But I hope you have fun drawing this dragon. You can also add scale texture to him or her by, again, if you just do the sort of like that, or you could even just add some scale texture in certain places. So like you could outline this like that. So you can make your dragon as fancy as you like, depending on the situation. So I hope you have fun with this, and if you want to hear some tips on altering this design, just stay tuned. All right, so for those of you who are interested in drawing using this same strategy but drawing the dragon in a little bit of a different position, I'm just going to show you how you can just move these shapes and lines a little bit, and how you can still draw the dragon, but it changes the position. So we're going to still just start with this rectangle here. So what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to come down maybe just a little bit from where I drew it before. And so I'm just going to draw my rectangle. And don't forget, this rectangle is going to be the dragon's head. Okay. Now, instead of drawing this line that just kind of comes down and then up like that, what we're going to do is we're going to start this line here, but I'm going to bring it down further. And then I'm going to bring it across and then back up. And you might say, whoa, Mrs. Herbay. But here's what we're going to do. So in the second step, instead of putting this body shape right here like this, I'm going to move it and I'm going to kind of put it down here a little further, because what's going to happen is the dragon's neck, the dragon is going to be kind of sitting upright. So the dragon's neck is going to be much longer like this. So I'm still going to put this shape, but I'm going to put it more down here. All right, so I'm going to maybe like right about here. So same thing, I'm going to draw that curve, and you can kind of play around with it for a minute. If you remember, it was wider at the bottom and then kind of curved like that. So there is my body shape, sort of like my gumdrop shape. Okay. And then what we're going to do is, then we have our wings, right? So the wings are still on the back of the dragon's body. So I'm going to, and maybe this time I'm going to make my wings a lot bigger. So I'm going to go up a little bit further and a little higher. And then I'm going to do the same for this one. I'm going to go up and then over like that. Okay? Now, when we go to step 3, the face is really not going to change. So the dragon is still going to have 2 nostrils and an eye, which is going to go right around here. And then we're going to do the mouth. So again, the mouth is coming in and then going down like that. And then I'm going to erase that line in between there. Now I'm going to start the body, but this time what's going to happen is I'm going to come down from the eye and I'm following along, and then I'm finding that body right there like that. Okay? Then I'm coming around the body just like I did before, but then as I come off the body, I'm going to curve, and then I'm bubbling around the tail, meeting back up with this shape here, and then I'm curving up around to the head like that. And then so we don't need this here anymore. We don't need this. We can get rid of this now. And this little line can go away. So those are kind of like our place, or like sort of our guide or our skeleton. And then now I can really kind of smooth that around. And here's the other thing. If you wanted the body to be a little bit wider, you can always bring this down and change that curve. You can totally do that. It's totally up to you. You can kind of change, but this kind of gives you an idea. And then what we're going to do is we also still need to add the legs, but now the dragon is sitting. So we aren't going to have the legs kind of, the legs are going to go like this, but then they're also going to come out like this. And then I'm going to put this one like that, okay? And then the same thing is back here. We are going to have the leg come down like this and come out. And then the other one's going to come down and go out like that, okay? And then we will go on to the next step, which is where we will now create the wings. So again, if I wanted to round the wing, the corner of the wing, I can, instead of making it so pointy, or I can leave it pointy. And then this is where we kind of can decide how far. So you're just making these curved, and then don't forget we want to curve around and come down like that. So there is a wing. And if you don't like how you drew it, like I think I want it to go out and kind of over, so I'm going to erase that. So I kind of went up with my wing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up a little bit higher and then go over with my wing like that. And then I'm going to go up and over like that. So that now there, I like how that looks better. And you can kind of play around with, again, this is just giving you ideas. You could say, well, maybe I want to move the wing up a little bit further. So this is just giving you a basic framework. Now for the legs, what we're going to do is, instead of bubbling around these types of lines, we're going to bubble around. So there's number one. And there's number two, and then I'm going to erase that. That line stays there because this leg is behind, but this line, so that stays there like that. And then this is going to get bubbled around. But then this one, so we'll erase that. So now I have dragon's legs. So we are on step 5 now, where we will add the other details. So same as before, I'm going to go up here, I'm going to erase those lines and add my nostrils. I'm going to add the second eye next to the other eye. I'm going to add the eye details. I'm going to add the inside of the mouth. I'm going to think about the shape of the head. Curve that around there a little bit more. And then I'm going to add my teeth, and I'm going to add the lines for the wings. that is all the details we need to add here. If I wanted to change the shape of the head to come, oops, that looks a little silly. Can do that. And then, or actually I don't think I like that. But that's the fun of just kind of playing around with your lines and seeing. And then, last but not least, we will add the other details. So we can add the horns if we want to. Maybe I will add an ear. And I can then add just to kind of show you what it looks like if you want to add. So you can do a wave, if you want to do wavy, it changes the look a little bit. And you can decide what you want to go on the end of the tail. Like that. And then if we do that, and then last but not least, claws. And if you wanted to make the feet even a little more fancy, you could by just like that, if you felt like it. Or you can just add the claws on the end. Like that. And I think we've got it. So this just shows you how by changing around where you put, how you draw this line and where you put the shoes. So just by changing the direction of this line and changing where you place the body shape, you can do different versions of the same dragon. So here is a sitting dragon and here is a flying dragon. And again, also play around with adding some different details, trying, again, like I said, instead of pointy lines, try rounded lines and see if that changes. Try adding some texture details, try color. So there's all kinds of things that you can do with this. And I hope you have fun, and I look forward to seeing your work and either posting it to Padlet or coming to see me during office hours.